Promises made, promises kept. Mark Fogle comes home. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, we've got a jam-packed show for you today. Trust me when I tell you this. A lot of news, a lot of developments on many fronts. But look, without question, one of the biggest stories right now in the country and in the world is the heartwarming scenes, the proud scenes of an American hostage finally returning home. Mark Fogle, an American high school teacher who taught in Moscow at the Anglo-American school, was detained and arrested in Russia in August 2021 on drug charges. And in particular, he was detained because he had medicinal marijuana. Well, they don't recognize medicinal marijuana in Russia. Russia is very, very harsh when it comes to dealing with drugs, people possessing drugs. And so they don't see any distinctions between marijuana and that for medical purposes. So for the last almost 4 years, Mark Fogle has been rotting in a Russian prison. His health is deteriorating. His family feared for the worst, that he was going to die. President Trump met with Mark Fogle's 95-year-old mother, of all places, just before he was assassinated in Butler, Pennsylvania. He was so moved by her plea for her son. And the more he found out about how this poor American man, really, who had committed no crime whatsoever. I mean, yes, it's illegal in Russia, but, he wasn't doing cocaine or meth or heroin, or it was medicinal marijuana. He's had health issues for a good part of his life, and medicinal marijuana in most of the United States is legal. It's not in Russia. He was caught, and boom, they threw him behind bars, where he suffered immensely. In fact, over 100 days he spent in a hospital. People thought he wouldn't make it. Prisons in Russia are harsh. They're brutal. They're not like here in the United States. Trump made a promise to Mark Fogle's mother, Mark Fogle's sister, Mark Fogle's family. We are going to bring your son and brother home. You have my word as an American. If I become the president of the United States, Mark Fogle will step back on American soil. He made a deal with Vladimir Putin. We don't quite know the contents of the deal yet, but it was essentially a prisoner swap. The Russians got something, and we got Mark Fogle. Listen now to Mark Fogle in the middle of the night, arriving at the Oval Office. He literally had an American flag around his neck, beaming ear to ear, and he couldn't believe it. It was like a miracle. Listen now to Mark Fogle saying, there's one hero here. It's not me. It's President Trump. He and his team made it happen. Roll cut 1, Mike.
I feel like the luckiest man on earth right now. And I want you to know that I am not a hero in this at all. And President Trump is a hero. These men that came from the diplomatic service are heroes. The senators and representatives that passed legislation in my honor to get me home are the heroes. I am in awe of what they all did.
I mean, you can see, you can feel, you can hear and sense the emotion, obviously, in the poor man's voice, what he must have endured and suffered. Now, I want to be crystal clear, okay? Because this needs to be said. Joe Biden, that buffoon, and Kamala Harris, that other buffoon, had nearly 4 years to bring this man home. And they did nothing. They literally did nothing. They let him rot in a gulag. President Trump, within 3 weeks of his presidency? 3 weeks of his presidency. Dispatched his envoy, Steve Witkoff. Apparently, Witkoff met personally with Vladimir Putin. And there's a thawing now of relations between the United States and Russia. And Trump, the deal maker, Trump, the statesman, Trump, the patriot, promised Mark Fogle's mother and promised Mark Fogle's family, we're gonna get your boy home. He's an American. We leave no one behind. By the way, just so that all of you know, Trump says there's going to be a second American prisoner that's going to be released today. They were so worried about Fogle's health that they flew him in last night. Witkoff is going back to Moscow. I think he's actually in the air as I speak to you now to bring the second American prisoner home. But Fogle's health is bad. They said, we got to get him back. We got to get him back as soon as possible. We got to get him medically examined. We got to get him with his family, both mentally and physically. He is not doing well. And so it was almost like, get him on a plane. We're not even going to wait 24 hours. Get him out of Russia ASAP. Get him home right away. Now, furthermore, and just for the record, because this needs to be said, Trump himself said it, but other media outlets are reporting it, what's happened behind the scenes. Rubio, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, apparently played an instrumental role. They said that his diplomacy, his negotiations, his around-the-clock work on this, indispensable. Absolutely indispensable. So it was both Steve Witkoff and Marco Rubio who really helped Trump carry this thing over the finish line. Listen now to Mark Fogle. He is with President Trump. He thanked his family and especially his 95-year-old mother who never gave up. Roll cut 1A, Mike.
My family has been a force. I think my 95-year-old mother is probably the most dynamic 95-year-old on earth right now. And I am so indebted to so many people. I think I remember a Churchill quote that he said when the RAF was fighting the Luftwaffe, and he said that never have so many owed so much to so few. And I put myself, fortunately and unfortunately, into that category. And I said, never has one owed so much to so many.
I mean, look, when I saw the images earlier this morning, I literally had tears in my eyes. Isn't it great to have a president who's respected around the world again? Isn't it great to have a president who actually cares and gives a damn about his fellow Americans? Isn't it great, honestly, to have a president who is going to do whatever it takes if you've been unfairly jailed, imprisoned, detained, that this president will move heaven and earth if need be to bring you home? I've got to say this. It's not just that it's great to have a competent president and a courageous president and a resilient and determined president, but a patriotic president, someone who puts America and Americans first. And to see those incredible images of Mark Fogle with the American flag, draped in the American flag around his neck, and I don't know what he's holding, some kind of a can. I don't know if it's a beer or a soda. You could tell he was really enjoying that baby, and Trump putting his arm around him and telling him, listen, don't worry, we got you. You're going to get medically examined. You're going to get checked out. You're going to have a great life. Trump kept telling him, look, you're going to have a great life. You're going to have many good years ahead of you. You're back. You're home. You're in your country. You're with your people. A massive diplomatic coup. This is a massive diplomatic coup for Trump. It's a massive diplomatic coup for the United States. And let me tell you what else it shows, my friends. That Trump now, unlike Biden, is able to make deals and make deals now with Vladimir Putin that I think now augur very, very well for a peace deal with Ukraine. This, I believe, is just the beginning of a thaw and an improvement in relations that can end that catastrophic war and bring more American prisoners home. So I want to ask all of you, what do you make now of the incredible scenes of Mark Fogle back in the White House with President Trump? Is Trump now already establishing himself as one of the great statesmen in the world today? And are you impressed with the speed, the effectiveness, and how well he's performing as president? And we're only, 3 weeks in? Mark Fogle is home. Your reaction next. Those are cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, Trump delivers again. Mark Fogle detained, held in a prison in Russia for almost 4 years on drug charges. It was medicinal marijuana. He was arrested with it at an airport in Moscow. He was well known in the American community in Moscow. He was a high school teacher, very well respected high school teacher who taught at the Anglo-American school in Moscow. Well, the poor man has been rotting in a gulag behind bars now for nearly 4 years. He said Trump is the man who made it happen, that without Trump, he would not be home right now, or to be more accurate, in the White House, the Oval Office with Trump last night. He would not be back on American soil. Listen now to Fogle thanking everyone, his family, people in Pennsylvania, where he's from, who never gave up on him, but describing in many ways how it was a harrowing 3.5 years. Roll cut 1B, Mike.
This superorganism of people that came to my support and the love that I was given sustained me for 3.5 years in a prison that had me in hospitals for more than 100 days. I was given more than 400 injections in that time. And knowing I had the support of my fellow Pennsylvanians, my family, my friends, it was so overwhelming that it brought me to my knees and it brought me to tears.
He was very emotional last night, and of course I don't blame him. Just very quickly, because the lines are filling up now, so I want to get to the calls. 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. Listen to him say, I'll be eternally indebted to President Trump, to his special envoy Steve Witkoff, and to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He says, you don't know what it's like to deal with the Russian government. You don't know what it's like to deal with the Kremlin. You have to move basically heaven and earth to get anything done, and that's pretty much what Trump did. It was the art of the deal. And because of the art of the deal, Mark Fogle is not only home, he's alive. Roll cut 1C, Mike.
It was my energy, it was my being that kept me going that whole time, and I will forever be indebted to President Trump, to Steve over there. What a dynamic man this guy is.
That's true.
When I met him, the energy, the can-do attitude just exudes from his body. And when he smiled at me and introduced me, and I got the feel for what has happened, you know, it's not just me, it's everybody. And Secretary Rubio, who met my son a while back, I'm a middle-class school teacher who's now in a dream world.
What he's really saying is this. You know, I'm not a celebrity. I'm not Brittany Griner, you know, that basketball player. I'm just a middle-class school teacher who got caught up in forces much bigger than me. It was a nightmare. It almost seemed a never-ending nightmare. At times I thought I was going to die because his health is failing. And President Trump didn't forget me. And Marco Rubio didn't forget me. And Steve Witkoff didn't forget me. And ultimately my family and my friends and you, the American people, us, we didn't forget him. And it's just, to me, it's an incredible moment. I think it's an incredible diplomatic victory for Trump. And I agree with Trump. I think there's no question now. This deal, and there's another one coming, and there's going to be another American coming today. Freed, we don't know who, but someone's going to get freed again. Another one's going to be freed somewhere in a Russian prison. So American prisoners are starting to come home. This is clearly a first step towards potentially ending the war in Ukraine. And this is what I tried to say for years. When you have a senile buffoon like Joe Biden, a child in the White House, when you call the leader of a foreign country names, a war criminal, a murderer, responsible for genocide, how are you going to cut a deal? I kept saying that the whole time. You're condemning your fellow Americans to rot in that gulag until they die. You're never going to be able to end the war in Ukraine because they're not going to want to sit down with you. So you've lost the ability to negotiate a settlement, and you're confining your fellow American prisoners to basically a life of brutality and misery in some gulag in Siberia. I'm sorry, you're an idiot. That's why presidents have never done that before. No one did it before. Forget Trump. Obama didn't do it. Bush didn't do it. Clinton didn't do it. Carter didn't do it. Reagan didn't do it. You don't personalize diplomacy by just standing there and name calling the head of a great power. Why? Because eventually you're going to need to sit down and negotiate. Hello? I want to quickly play the cut. Trump had told Fogle, tonight you're sleeping in the Lincoln bedroom. Roll cut 2, Mike.
We're going to show you the Lincoln bedroom. It's a very special place. Appropriate for tonight. Very appropriate.
And thank you all. And I love our country. And I'm so happy to be back here. And I wish I could articulate it better.
You've done beautifully.
Trump is right. You've done beautifully. And look, let me just say this. Look at the pride that Mark Fogle has in being an American. And this is, to me, maybe Trump's greatest gift to our country. Beyond every, DOGE and securing the border and everything that he's now done, barring men and women's sports and women's locker rooms. He's brought American pride and patriotism back. Agree, disagree, your calls. March, my friends, pulls off another deal. This time, Mark Fogle is home in a Russian prison for 3.5 years. But Biden couldn't get him home. Kamala couldn't get him home. Trump got him home less than, 3 weeks or almost 3 weeks into his presidency? 617-266-6868. Okay, 632 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Let me ask all of you, what do you make now of this incredible achievement by Trump? Mark Fogle is on American soil. In fact, I believe spent the night in the Lincoln bedroom. He is going to be seeing his mom, his sister, his family. They're also going to do a lot of medical tests on him. His health is not very good. He suffered quite a bit in that Russian prison. Is this a diplomatic coup for Trump? And more importantly, for the American people? And are we now beginning to see a first step, a big step towards ending the war with Ukraine and having better relations with Russia. Larry in Leominster. You're going to kick us off, Larry. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you, sir?
Very good, Larry. Those images filled my heart with pride. I got to tell you, beautiful, absolutely beautiful images.
I might be in the minority then. I'm not exactly happy with it.
Okay, now why, Larry?
It's great diplomacy that it was unnecessary to spend. Jeff, when you and your wife emigrated from Canada, did you familiarize yourself with our laws?
Yes, of course.
Right. This guy is a teacher. He's not a young little... It's bad enough that we got Brittany Griner back, right? That idiot. But this guy's an older teacher who either didn't bother to learn Russia's laws to go over there to teach or ignored them and put us in a position where we had to negotiate to get them. That's what irritates me. People who go over to do work, go over to live, get in trouble because they think our laws are other countries' laws, or they think they don't have to follow other laws. Get themselves into a position. Now, don't get me wrong, he should have been in a gulag-type prison and mistreated and stuff. But you can't go into another country and expect not to get in trouble if you're breaking their laws. And like you said, it's a great diplomatic coup, but you're spending capital, that's limited. Diplomatic capital. And that's how I take it.
Larry, let me ask you, let's just say I could make you president for a day. Okay, it's not President Trump, it's President Larry in Leominster. And your people come to you and say, look, he's in bad shape. We don't know how much longer he can last in that gulag. He may die. His system may just completely fail. We can make a deal. It's a prisoner swap. We're going to have to give a couple of Russians that we have in exchange for Fogle. That's pretty much, I believe, that's what Trump did. Do you make the deal, Larry, or do you not make the deal?
But like you said earlier, we don't know who we exchanged for that. But let's look at Brittany Griner. We know who we gave up. What was he called? The merchant of death.
The merchant of death, yeah.
For that idiot, right? And go back to Bo Bergdahl. We rescued that idiot, and we gave up 5 of the top, Al-Qaeda assassins or whatever. It's got to be a balance, Jeff. And it's a tough decision. It's like cutting the baby in half. You know what I mean? That whole thing. Well,
look, Larry, I promise I'll give you all the time you need. Larry, look, you're a veteran. You served your country. I didn't. You were in the Air Force. I wasn't. Maybe you're just a harder man than I am. And I don't mean that obviously as an insult. I mean as a compliment. Maybe you're just made of tougher, sterner stuff than I am. I'll be honest. I make the deal. And I'm not denying anything that you're saying. It's perfectly rational, perfectly logical. And I want to play this cut. Okay. And I want to get your reaction because this is essentially, this is why he did the deal. Let me just play the cut. So he says he meets the mother, Mark Fogle's mother. This was just before he went on stage in Butler, Pennsylvania, where he got assassinated, or the attempted assassination. And she said, listen, you got to get my son out. He's not going to make it. Please promise me. And Trump said, I made her a promise. And when I make someone a promise, I keep my promise. Roll cut 2A, Mike.
He's got a great mother. And when I saw the mother at a rally, she said, if you win, will you get my son out? And I promise, she's 95 years old. And I said, we'll get him out. And we got him out pretty quickly.
She told me that exact words.
I remember. She made quite an impression.
And you also did.
Yeah.
And I'm in awe of what you've done and your team.
It's great to have you back.
Oh.
Gonna have a great life.
Larry, 95-year-old mother comes to you. You're running for president. Says, my boy's rotting in a gulag. Please, you're the only one that can get him out. If you win, please bring him home. Trump said yes. I don't know if you would have said yes, obviously. But I got to ask you, at least on this level, what the left now cannot take away from Trump is he's a man of his word. And that's the other thing. Yeah, Sandy makes a very good point. And, he was shot that day. And he still remembered that he made that promise to this 95-year-old mother. That's what I just find really impressive about him. But anyway, Larry, go ahead. What say you?
Oh, yeah, I agree. It's again, I'm not downplaying the diplomacy of it. It looks great. It is a feel-good moment. However you feel about how strict another country's laws are is irrelevant. You have to obey them. And you can't, and it is hard, but you can't put emotion into legality. That's where we're getting away from a lot of stuff with a lot of these judges. They're jumping off on emotion when they make their decisions. I went over to Saudi for 2.5 months. We got a debrief on all the stuff we couldn't do. I was in a hard position myself because they gave us a list of all the things you can't do with your left hand. Because it's an insult. And yeah, it's an insult over there to do gesture with your left hand. You can get into some serious trouble. Guess what hand I use?
You're left-handed, right?
I'm left. I raised my hand. I'm like, hey, I'm left-handed. And they said, hey, don't screw this up. And it was on me. And now juxtapose that with what's going on with these hostages with Hamas. Those people, in my opinion, are innocent in the sense that they were just there. We have Americans over there that are just there. I'd understand moving heaven and earth to get those guys because they got caught up in a terrorist act and being held hostage. I'm not saying that, I understand that people think it was harsh that Griner got 9 years, even though she pled guilty for hashish is what she had. She didn't have quite marijuana, but she had a hash pipe. Both of them going there knowing Russia is notorious for not tolerating drugs and chose to bring it in. That's my sticking point. It's great to get our people home. He served 3 years. So, my first thought was if there was a quick swap, maybe have him complete whatever sentence he got over here, but that's already passed. It's just, to me, Jeff, it's capital we don't need to spend.
Interesting.
Or we shouldn't have to spend.
Interesting. Larry, as always, thank you very much for that call. Well, let's put it on the table then. That's why I love this audience. Always unpredictable. Always giving you angles you never would even think of. So let me ask all of you, what do you make of Larry's argument that, yeah, it's a great feel-good story, no question about it. It's a diplomatic victory for Trump and America, no question about it. But we are expending unnecessary political diplomatic capital. That, in a sense, Mark Fogle has no one to blame but himself. He taught there. He was a high school teacher there. He knew the laws of Russia, and yet he decided to bring in medicinal marijuana, knowing that that's verboten. It is forbidden in Russia. And I'm sorry, you should know the law, and if you break the law, you have to suffer the consequences. Agree, disagree. Should Trump have expended diplomatic capital to bring Mark Fogle home? Larry says no. What say you? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, big story. Mark Fogle, Biden couldn't do it. Kamala Harris couldn't do it. Trump, however, did it. Through Steve Witkoff and Marco Rubio, Putin now has made a deal. Mark Fogle, held for 3.5 years in a Russian prison, is now on American soil at the Oval Office, reunited with his family. Your calls, your reaction next. 6:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, massive diplomatic breakthrough now between Russia and the United States. A logjam has now been broken. Mark Fogle, who has been sitting in a Russian prison, rotting really in a Russian jail, for 3.5 years, over drug charges. He was caught with medicinal marijuana. He's a teacher, a high school teacher, who taught at the Anglo-American school in Moscow. Basically, the children of diplomats, American diplomats, and foreign service workers. So he was basically teaching their kids. And he was caught with medicinal marijuana at the airport in Moscow. And boom, they dropped a hammer on him. He was rotting behind bars for 3.5 years. Trump met Fogle's mother just before that infamous rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. She pleaded her case. He was so moved by her case that he came and said to her, "I will get your son home." And in about 3 weeks, Trump has delivered. It is a big, big, big victory, I believe, for the United States, at least diplomatically. And another American prisoner apparently is coming home today. And it now signals a thaw between Russia and the United States in our relations. And Trump yesterday said it is a first step to maybe ending the Ukraine war. So we shall see. But my question to you, do you support what Trump did? And do you think now this is going to lead to even bigger changes in the relationship between Russia and the United States? Or do you agree with Larry? If you go to another country and you should know their laws, and if you break their laws, you should suffer the consequences. Trump should not have expended that kind of diplomatic political capital because Fogle ultimately broke Russian law and he should have known Russian law. Angelo in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Angelo, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Yeah, it's a great day. Well, getting back to that hostage, that's really good news. But he got off the plane. They checked his stuff. They says, "Oh, comrade, what is this, marijuana?" "Oh, I have a prescription coming from America. I have a prescription. I have a medical condition. That's my medicine." "Oh, no, gulag, 14 years. Take him away." That's it. They don't want to hear nothing. Thank God he got him out. But I think Trump is using his diplomatic, biological, male, common sense personalities. That's why he got elected, and the world is going to benefit from it. People just cannot swallow the fact that he's biological, he's dominant, he's a male, he uses his brain for common sense things. He's going to end the war. Things are going to come back on track, like Maxwell with her band of non-patriotic Democrats that don't want to see success. They just want to cry. The audits are going well. On and on and on. But I just want to make one other point, Jeff, because I don't hear it really coming out, and this affects everybody. Anybody that is receiving benefits from the government, Social Security, they have to do an audit for every person. And let's just use Massachusetts. If you're collecting your retirement, you're entitled to it. Go there, verify who you are. It goes in the computer. They give you a receipt with a number, tracking number, and everything for every person. Your benefits will not be taken away. Just go there, say who you are, receive your benefits, keep getting them, and then at the end of the audit, it might take a year, might take 2 years to go through everything. After they do that, and everybody has their paperwork saying who they are, whoever didn't show up within that time allotted, cancel it all. You'll save unbelievable money. We'll have a surplus of money. But don't take their benefits away. Keep paying. You're paying anyway. Go through, verify everything, and then take it from there. And let me tell you something. You'll get the people that have 9 aliases in one household will be
Well, bingo.
Devastating.
Yeah, no, Angelo, look, I don't want to get too off topic, but look, you're dead on. Look, Elon just said it yesterday. There was a televised, I don't know if you want to call it a press conference, but there was Elon with his son. He was holding his son, was adorable, right beside Trump in the Oval Office, right beside the desk. And he said, DOGE has already identified hundreds of billions of dollars. Now, let me repeat that. Hundreds of billions with a B of dollars in massive government fraud, waste, and abuse. And what that means in plain English is they're writing Social Security checks to illegal aliens, or as you put it, to 8-9 people living in an apartment. People, apparently he says there are dead people, they've died 150 years ago, and they're still collecting Social Security checks. So he says it's a massive racket. It's going to bankrupt Social Security. He says the reason why you don't want checks going to illegals or dead people or people who are scamming the system is because in the end, it'll bankrupt Social Security. So people like you, Angelo, and others who deserve it, have earned it, law-abiding American citizens, you want Social Security to be there for you. I mean, and Elon is like, I don't know how much clearer we can be. We're trying to save Social Security. We're trying to prevent massive fraud of the system. That's it. There's no other agenda. It's that simple. Case closed, full stop. So they have to do the audit. They're going to continue to do the audit. In fact, Trump signed an executive order yesterday now saying that every federal agency in the entire government has to comply with DOGE. So Trump is now doubling, tripling down. He's not backing down. And look, the number yesterday, they said we for dead to rights, we've got hundreds of billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. We've already found it. Trump yesterday said, I spoke with Elon, we think there's $1 trillion in fraud. Easy. He goes, we'll give you the number soon, but we're looking at $1 trillion in fraud. $1 trillion. That's an unimaginable amount of money. And Elon came out and said, there's more fraud in the government than in the entire private sector combined. He said that's how bad the problem is. So if you're yelling and screaming against this, then what you're saying is you're corrupt. It's obvious now. The Democrats have thoroughly revealed who and what they are. They're on the side of massive corruption. They're on the side of the permanent bureaucracy. They're on the side of the entire corrupt deep state. And this is why Trump and Elon understand that if they're going to succeed, if they're going to rescue America and put us back on a solid financial footing and save our country, you have to do this no matter what. Angelo, thank you very much for that call. And to bring it full circle back to Russia, you have to, because if you want to talk about massive fraud, the Ukraine war has been nothing but a massive money pit. So we have Zelensky. I pointed this out yesterday. It bears repeating. Zelensky has now admitted that $102 billion has disappeared. Money that we sent for financial, economic, or military aid, it is gone. It's gone. So according to Zelensky himself, this is him admitting this. So they stole over $100 billion, and I'm telling you, a lot of it went back to politicians in Washington. It's not just him. It's not just his cronies. It's not just his generals. That's $102 billion to be specific. It's time to end this war. Like, seriously. In fact, here, let me just play Donald Trump. Listen now to Trump. Because he's being pressed now. Well, did you speak to Putin? How did you make this deal happen for Mark Fogle and this other prisoner now that's going to be coming home today? And listen to Trump. When you're dealing with diplomacy at this level, you don't say anything. You don't burn any bridges. You don't violate any confidences. So Trump was deliberately being a little bit coy and a little bit cagey. Roll cut 2B, Mike.
Did you speak directly to President Putin about?
Well, I don't want to say that. I just want to say that I appreciate very much what they did in letting Mark go home. And I appreciate Steve Witkoff, the job he did, and Marco behind the scenes was unbelievable. And so many of these people were unbelievable. They represent him. They're from his area. And we just wanted to get him back home. I had to get him back home because I would have had big trouble with his mother.
That's funny. That's actually funny. But basically, look, he's thanking Putin. Now, already the left is like, how can you thank Putin? Hey, stupid. There's other Americans rotting in the gulags over there. So what's he going to do? Insult them? Give them the middle finger? Like that's going to get them home? American lives are at stake. By the way, ending the war in Ukraine. We're talking saving millions of lives. So, of course you thank Putin. You'd be stupid not to thank Putin. In fact, listen to Fogle. This surprised the liberal woke press corps. They thought Fogle would badmouth Putin. No. Roll cut 3, Mike.
And I also should make mention that President Putin was very generous and statesmanlike in granting me a pardon. I mean...
Now, why is he saying that? Right? He doesn't have to say that. He's on American soil now. He could be giving Putin a middle finger. Because he knows there are other fellow Americans like him in a gulag. In other words, by the great, do unto others as you would have done unto you. He wants them rescued as well. He wants them freed as well. So, of course, thank you, Mr. Putin. I really appreciate it. You were very gracious. Thank you. Stroke his ego. Make him feel like, oh, you're a statesman. Look at this. Hey, you even get the Nobel Peace Prize for this. In other words, coax him a little bit. It's just being smart. Because he's not just thinking about himself. He's thinking about fellow Americans who are still being left behind. 617-266-6868 is the number. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
I just want to mention this one thing before I go into it, but, up in Maine, they're trying to pass legislation last week to eliminate ranked choice voting. So let's hope the people will keep the pressure on that.
Yeah, definitely, Dan. My position, I can't stand ranked choice voting. I think it's a disaster. Dan, what do you make of this here? Is this a big victory for Trump? Is it a victory for America? Or are you more with Larry in Leominster? That Fogle should have known the consequences of bringing medicinal marijuana and that Trump is expending needless political diplomatic capital?
Well, first of all, Jeff, only President Trump could be doing this. Everything that's happening, nobody else could be doing it. I've always said that. What laws are real laws anyways? I mean, we had illegal and unconstitutional mandates that weren't laws. I didn't follow any of it, okay? And as far as the federal income tax, that was put in on 12/23/1913 illegally when they were all on recess, okay? And then they changed several other things. They brought in the Federal Reserve, and they changed the U.S. Senate from appointed to elected. So they're not even following the laws. So that being said, Jeff, we got to. I mean, AOC is worth $29 million, and she's going into her 5th year. You got the Pelosi and Feinstein family profiting from buying land with federal grants stolen by eminent domain. Pelosi's husband sells it to the Feinstein family, and then they turn around and sell it to the railways. So everybody's stealing. So you got Samantha Powers, ex-USAID chief under Biden. Her net worth went from $6.7 million to $30 million on a salary of $180K in 3 years. Samantha Powers worked for Obama administration with Susan Rice, running the country into the ground, and was involved in the under Obama under surveillance of President Trump in his 2016 campaign. I mean, Obama's mother worked for USAID and the CIA. His father was part of the CIA program to identify and train African Americans. His stepfather, Obama's stepfather, Lola Soroto, assisted in violent CIA coup against Indonesian president, claiming
No, Dan, no, I hear you, but we're getting really far down the road here, Dan. But what I'm just saying, and I'm not trying to protect Obama, far from it, but I just want to stay focused on the issue at hand. Look, Trump obviously has got much bigger fish to fry. And that was the point of his big meeting with Elon in front of the cameras yesterday. We're now looking at almost unimaginable levels of fraud and thievery and embezzlement. There's no question now. There's no question. But in the midst of all this, and they're going to start to clean it up, God willing, Trump is delivering. And let me just ask all of you, because it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. How would you describe Trump's presidency so far? How would you describe it so far? The left, the Democrats, and the media are describing it as a constitutional crisis. That everything he's doing now is a constitutional crisis. Or B, shock and awe. And that's what Sandy and I were talking about in the pre-show meeting today. I go, just to see the images, again, they're showing it all over the TV screens now, of Fogle with the American flag draped on his shoulders, around his neck, warmly handshaking Trump, and Trump putting his hand on his shoulder and saying, welcome back home, and that beautiful big smile. And I'm like, this is, getting him out of a Russian prison. And within 3 weeks, looking at everything that he's accomplished, whether it be on men competing in women's sports, whether it be on securing the border, whether it be on mass deportations, whether it be on pulling us out of the Paris Accords or the World Health Organization, or breaking Canada and Mexico on the issue of the tariffs. I could just go on and on and on and on. It's shock and awe. And it's like Sandy said to me, goes, it's like he gets up every morning and it's like, okay, we got to keep checking these boxes. Promises made, promises kept. Let's go. Come on. I got to, more promises to keep, more promises to keep. Let's keep going. And, Mark Halperin, who's a liberal journalist, said that the pace that Trump is now setting with all of the achievements and accomplishments is going to put the Reagan Revolution to shame if he can continue now and sustain this. So I'm looking at Mark Fogle and I'm saying Biden couldn't bring him home. Outside of Brittany Griner, who the hell did Biden bring home? And he gave away the merchant of death. He gave away the store. Trump is saying, look, I'm telling you, the deal, you're going to get all the final details. We didn't give up that much. He goes, I'm telling you, we gave up a little. We have to give something, but we didn't give up that much. So honestly, to me, it's shock and awe. I think there's no question. It's been a shock and awe presidency. But that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in National ER. Tommy in West Virginia. Thanks for holding, Tommy, and welcome.
Winning. No, I'm sorry. I totally disagree with Larry from Leominster. And thank you, Larry, for defending freedom in the Air Force. This is great. And I can't wait to listen to the NPR people on Facebook. They're going to be mashing their teeth in anger at what Trump has done. And they'll be the same ones that defended Joe Biden with Brittany Griner. They were the same ones about, what a statesman. It's just wonderful. He's bringing her home. You know, there's a big difference between medical marijuana and a hash pipe. And you know me, I go to the Philippines quite often. And the one thing that I made myself aware of before going to the Philippines is, number one, if you're going to get romantically involved with another woman over there, she better not be married. Reason why? In the Philippines, they passed a law that if you are having intimate relations with a married woman, even though they're quote-unquote separated, the husband can make a complaint and you can get arrested in the middle of the night.
Wow.
So, you know, yeah. So I want to go to Thailand. And the other thing is with Thailand, their currency has all members of their royal family on there. And all of a sudden, if you pull out a large denomination of their currency called the baht, and that thing blows down the street, you don't step on that with your foot. You can get arrested for that because that's disrespectful. You know, and when you go to foreign countries, you better learn their customs so you won't get into a kerfuffle. But no, I think what Trump did with regards to this, the cherry on top, it was the day that they tried to assassinate him, and he didn't forget a 95-year-old woman. This is going to be legendary on his legacy for what he did on this. And yes, the first thing that I thought of when I heard that he got an American back, right, it just went to my head immediately. This is a prelude, or however you pronounce it, to Trump sitting down with Putin. We got to end this war in Ukraine. Just please stop. And, you know,
Tommy, you're dead on. Honestly, you're dead on. And look, I agree with you. I think it's going to now add to his legacy. I think it's an incredible legacy already. And that's what impressed me the most. He was shot that day. He came within a millimeter of losing his life. And he remembered the promise he made to a 95-year-old mother. That, to me says everything you need to know about Trump. And I agree with you. This is now going to lead to the mother of all peace deals in Ukraine.
My mother went to the Trump rally and saw President Trump shortly before he was shot.
In Butler,
so
right?
It was
in Butler, where she's from.
It was just a crazy turn of events. And he told her then that if he was elected, he was going to get him out, and the man was true to his word.
That was Mark Fogle's sister, Ann Fogle, on This Is CNN, telling Aaron Burnett, President Trump is a man of his word. He promised us, he promised my mother, he was going to bring my brother home, and he did. 7:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are jammed. David in Boston. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Hey, with friends like Larry from Leominster, who needs enemies?
Oh, come on, David. Don't you think you're being a little harsh on Larry? He's a veteran. He fought for our freedoms. I think he's entitled to his opinion, David.
How about, I'm a disabled Vietnam veteran. Am I entitled to mine?
Of course you are, David. I'm just saying, but, you know, come on. Don't call the guy an enemy. He's not an enemy.
I said with friends like that, who needs enemies?
Oh, yeah, you're basically implying he's an enemy.
Listen,
he's not an enemy, David. Just like you're
Jeff,
not an enemy.
We would have the guts to say that to Mark Fogle's mother and to Mark Fogle's face, that President Trump wasted his capital, is wasting his capital on the likes of Mark Fogle. You think you'd have the guts to say that you think you'd have the guts to say that to President Trump's face?
Well, David, look, I mean, I can tell you this. Larry has put his body on the line for me many, many times. He shows up to every rally. He provides my personal security, literally stands in front of me. I've had numerous death threats, and he's put his body on the line. And David, honestly, I know he'd put his body on the line for you. And look, he was very respectful in his call. I'm not defending him. I'm just, stating a fact. He said, look, I'm happy this guy's home. I'm happy Fogle is home. I feel very bad that he was rotting in a gulag. But he made the larger philosophical point. And honestly, David, I'd like to get your take on this. When you go to another country, you should respect that country's laws, no matter how draconian or how much you may disagree with it. And his point is that now I would have gotten Fogle home. I mean, I would have. I think what Trump did was, magnificent and a diplomatic coup. But Larry's point is he's a teacher, high school teacher. He worked in Russia for years. He should have known the laws. He didn't know the law. And if you don't know the law or you flout the law, you should suffer the consequences. David, I'm just curious. Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree. I bet Larry doesn't even know the laws of this country, all the laws of this country. You mean you got to be a Philadelphia lawyer in every country around the world to do some foreign travel? It's ridiculous, Jeff. He doesn't even know all the laws in this country. But, Jeff, let me ask you this question. What do you get when you cross a lemming with a hamster? You cross a lemming with a hamster. You get a lemonster. You get a lemonster Larry.
Oh, come on now, David. Jeez, David, come on, man. You guys are both vets. You're on the same side, David. So, David, look, I take it you love this play by Trump. You think it's a great move. Let me ask you this, David. Do you think Trump is right when he says this could be the next step, the key step towards potentially ending the war in Ukraine?
Well, absolutely, Jeff. That's why I don't appreciate Larry throwing a monkey wrench into this progress we're making with Russia and everything. And the president, he might just well be a liberal as far as I'm concerned, a moonbat.
David, look, he's entitled to his opinion, David. I mean, it doesn't make the guy a liberal. It doesn't make him a moonbat. I mean, David, come on, man. Let's take it easy a little bit. 617-266-6868 is the number. George in Melrose. Thanks for holding, George, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing? I agree with David, your previous caller there. I think Larry's way off base on this. Every stupid law in every country across the world. I mean, what if he said he was lucky to be debriefed when he was in Saudi Arabia? He said if you use your left hand, that's a sign of disrespect. So he's at the airport. Let me see your passport. He hands it over with his left hand. Take him away to jail, where our laws call for him to be tortured and have his left hand amputated. I mean, that's the law. You got to abide by it. That's the way we do it in this country. I mean, would that be unjust? And he'd be unjustly detained and jailed and tortured. But he's saying, yep, that's it. That's the law. He has no heart, no compassion, no understanding. And I appreciate you being a man of great compassion and understanding, Jeff. And
George, let me ask you this, though. What do you say to Larry's argument? But Russia is notoriously harsh on drugs. Right? I mean, I understand what you're saying about Saudi Arabia and maybe everybody wouldn't know about the left hand. But when you think Russia, you think a couple of things. One of them is don't do drugs, don't bring in drugs because they'll throw you in a gulag. What do you say to that, George?
Yeah, but I don't know. You argue it for me, Jeff. You know what I'm saying, No,
I agree. No, look, George, I'm with you. I'm with you all the way. Look, first of all, George, I mean, who the hell, 3.5 years in a gulag for medicinal marijuana? Are those people crazy down there? So, that's number one. Number two, look, you're talking about a patriot, a high school teacher. He was teaching the children of diplomats and foreign service workers in Moscow. His mother came to him and said, my son is going to die in that jail, which he would have. Can you save him? Of course you save him. I think Trump did the right thing. Oh, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a lot of reaction to Trump and getting Mark Fogle home, the deal that he struck with Vladimir Putin, and, of course, reaction to Larry in Leominster, maybe half an hour ago when he called in and said, look, Jeff, I disagree with Trump on this one. He expended too much political diplomatic capital to get an American home. He's happy he's home, obviously. Doesn't want the guy rotting in a gulag. But he said, look, Russia, the harsh laws that Russia has against drugs and drug use. He was caught with medicinal marijuana. He should have known the laws. You should obey and respect the laws of other countries. And if you're going to break the law, you should suffer the consequences of your action. This is from Tracy on Messenger. Jeff, good morning. If you are going to bring drugs to a country, you know the laws regarding them. Pretty simple. Again, she continues, please do not misunderstand me. I'm glad he's home. But I agree if you are doing something that you know, like bringing drugs to a foreign country, you better do your homework. And I think in many ways that's Larry's point. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree. CJ in Boston. Thanks for holding, CJ, and welcome.
Thank you for taking the call, Jeff. And I agree with Larry of Leominster. And please let me address this gentleman, George, a fellow disabled Vietnam veteran. He's one individual, as a disabled Vietnam veteran, that I would not want to be in a foxhole with. It wasn't the medicinal marijuana that got Mr. Fogle arrested. It was his ignorance and stupidity going to a foreign country and not knowing what their laws are. I'm well versed in this, Jeff. I just came back and for more than a month-long stay a few weeks ago to Vietnam. And let me tell anyone who is going to travel to a foreign country, you had better know their laws. And the first number that you better have in your book or written down when you get into that foreign country is you got to have the number of the embassy. It was his ignorance that got him arrested. And it's great that he's home. There is no doubt about that. But it just goes to show what diplomacy can do in getting things done. But I would say this when it comes to this diplomacy at this moment. The diplomacy that Donald Trump needs to use now is to the American people, because he is being attacked on all angles for what he is doing on trying to recoup some of this stolen money that is being sent out by U.S. and other agencies. They're all attacking him, and they're attacking Elon Musk for what they're doing. The diplomacy that needs to be done by Donald J. Trump. And the suggestion that I would have is he needs to show proof. The New York Post has an article out. They're claiming that money is being stolen, but Trump has shown no proof. Trump needs to go on national television with the proof. He needs to address the American people every week on national television to give them updates on what is being done to recoup the money that is being stolen in the United States of America. To Mr. Fogle, welcome home. To those who think about traveling abroad, they can't say this or stress it enough. Know the laws when you go there. Just for instance, in Singapore, if you spit out a piece of chewing gum on the street, you're going to jail. There are strict laws. Unlike America, where you can commit murder and be out in 8 or 10 years, there are countries in the world that do have laws, and people, because of those laws being so strict, they abide by them. It was once that way in America. It was that way when a police officer told you one time to walk, you walked away because you respected that officer. And if you did not, and he gave you a boot in the backside when you got home with your parents found out about it, you got 2 extra boots for not listening to that officer. So again, welcome home, Mr. Fogle. And Larry and Leominster, don't take it from that fellow veteran personally. It's just that some people just don't know what's going on in the world today. Jeff, if I just can relay this to you, I was speaking with someone close to me yesterday who was at who was at a meeting at one of these prestigious colleges, and what they were talking about. And at that meeting, 3 or 4 people, they were screaming about Trump taking away Social Security. And this is the kind of stuff that's going out there. And it's being thrown up against the wall. And it's being resonated by Elizabeth Warren and others, and what is being taken apart while these agencies have been picking the pockets of the American people. The American people should stand up and applaud Donald Trump for what he's doing.
I completely agree. CJ, as always, outstanding call, and I want to thank you for your service, as always. Thank you, CJ. 617-266-6868 is the number. Look, again, I don't want to get too sidetracked. No, Elon Musk has got now Elizabeth Warren in his crosshairs, in his political crosshairs. And he's asking the question, how is she worth, by the way, she's worth a hell of a lot more than 12 million. For some reason, they're saying she's worth 12 million. I'm like, that's low. That's really low. But Elon is asking the question, how is a woman who makes $200,000 a year worth $12 million? Now, I'm telling you, it's more like 40 million, easy 40 million. Okay. But let that go. So they're going super conservative, super cautious, super low. And that's why she's lying that Elon Musk is stealing people's Social Security checks. Because she knows now that she's caught. She's a crook. She's corrupt like all these other members of Congress. See, notice what's incredible about all of this is they're not screaming and decrying the corruption. They're screaming and complaining about pointing out the corruption. That, to me, is what's mind-boggling here. So, no, she's a crook. We always known that about her, and now they're going to catch her with her hand in the cookie jar. Mark my words. Elizabeth Warren is going to go down. She is going to be exposed, and she deserves to be exposed. 617-266-6868, but I digress. Tanya in Boston. Thanks for holding, Tanya, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Tanya?
I'm good. I agree with Larry, but not 100% to the extreme. If we compare a couple things here, you have that, what was she, a basketball player or whatever?
Yes.
When she was over there in Russia? Yeah. So, I think for her situation, it's a level of maturity, and, you have to understand that the freedom and the rights and the privileges that you have here, they don't happen when you leave these boundaries, when you leave these borders of the United States. Those are out the window. You now have to abide by another country's laws. And on top of it, I kind of want to say shame on her a little bit because, I kind of thought she was a little bit passive aggressive. Like, I can't believe I'm in jail. I can't believe they're doing this to me. Well, you're not the big basketball player over there. You're an American, and there's a lot of countries that don't like Americans right now. So if anything, you should be on your best behavior leaving this country if you're going to go somewhere else. But for that teacher, I think that's a little bit different scenario because, I'm in healthcare, and when you're going to leave and you're going to go to another country, those questions are asked, and it's like proactive. Okay, we got to make sure we get this done. We got to make sure we have this paperwork. You go on the plane, you got to make sure you have this. There's like a whole process. And like when somebody texted in and said, you're taking medications with you, you're going to know what exactly you need to do. So, whether he didn't do that or what, but, I'm trying to give this guy the benefit of the doubt, but you're a teacher. You know how to research things if you're a teacher. You have done that in your profession. So why? I don't know. Yes, I'm glad he's home. But in the view of the president, Trump could have said, nope, the heck with you, just like he could have said the heck with all the people that were giving him crap for, more than 4 years in California, there are a lot of movie stars were giving him crap, and they hated him and this and that, and a lot of those people's houses burned to the ground, and he didn't even think twice about it. He was like, get them out there right now. Let's get them built.
Well, Tanya, look, I think you really put your finger on it. You have an American in trouble. His health is failing. He's in Russia. He's in a horrible prison. His 95-year-old mother comes and begs you to free him. You're the president. You do what you got to do. WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen to the new iHeartRadio app with preset buttons. You can set the app to play the Kuhner Report automatically. All right, Trump delivers a huge diplomatic coup. Mark Fogle is now home on American soil. He was being detained, actually held in a Russian gulag or a Russian prison for 3.5 years. His mother thought he was going to die in prison. His health was failing. However, his 95-year-old mother, God bless her, got a hold of Trump just before the infamous rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Showed him a picture of her son, pleaded his case. Trump heard her and said, if I win, I'm going to get your boy home. And Trump delivered. What do you make of this achievement by Trump? Is it now a massive diplomatic breakthrough? And do you think we are now one step closer to ending the war in Ukraine now that relations are beginning to thaw between Putin and, of course, the United States? And let me throw this extra log on the fire. A lot of Kuhner country very much split on this issue. Mark Fogle, should we have expended political diplomatic capital to bring him home? He was arrested for medicinal marijuana. That's what he had in his luggage when he was in Moscow at the airport. It is illegal in Russia. And so they threw the book at him, 14 years in jail. Some of you are saying that Trump did the right thing, that this was an unfair prison sentence, excessively harsh, excessively over the top. And when an American is mistreated like this, the president has to act. Others say you should know the law before you go to another country, especially if you're bringing in drugs. Now, let me just say this very quickly because I want to go to the jammed phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. Look, if you're going to bring drugs of any kind, you're taking a big chance. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm just stating the obvious. Most countries around the world are very, very harsh when it comes to enforcing drug laws. So to me, this idea that you're going to be bringing in drugs and not expect, that you could get arrested and God knows be sent to prison for I don't know how many years. You have to consider that. That's why my advice is don't bring drugs. Period. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay. Or maybe, I don't know, unless you're going to the Netherlands, like Amsterdam or something, which is like, the legalized drug capital of the world. But outside of maybe Amsterdam, seriously, just don't do it. You're asking for trouble and you're most likely going to find trouble. That to me is point number one. Point number two. Look, I'm sorry, man. I don't think 14 years. Do I think 14 years is excessive for medicinal marijuana? Yes. And if you're the president of the United States and you hear that a fellow American is rotting in some Russian jail and you can free him because he is not long for this world, his health was failing him, you got to do something. And what I'm impressed with is how quickly Trump moved, how he remembered his promise to a 95-year-old mother on the very day that he was assassinated and almost lost his life, and that Mark Fogle is home. Every American counts. Every American life counts. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree. Now, I think another factor that I think may add some more context to this. Mark Fogle taught the children of American diplomats in Moscow and foreign service workers. So remember, it's a very different crowd that he's teaching. What I mean is, you're not typically on the streets of Moscow. You're in the American embassy, the American consulate. Remember, American law follows you into the American embassy, into the American consulate, into the American compound. So you're eating American food. You're with fellow American students, the children of these diplomats and foreign service workers. They're constantly going back and forth. They're acting like the laws of the United States apply to them. So I can understand where you kind of get lost in that milieu, as the French would say, in that world that you live in. Because pretty much you may feel like you're in America, but in a foreign country. Because you're on American sovereignty, on American territory, in American compound, on American ground, in an American embassy, dealing with American parents, teaching American students. So I think that maybe explains a little bit why he may have thought, well, if medicinal marijuana is legal in America and I go to Moscow, but I'm heading straight to the embassy because that's where the Anglo-American school is, in Moscow, I'm teaching the children of American diplomats. So American sovereignty would follow me. I mean, I'm trying to think like he did at the time. So maybe that explains his misunderstanding. But still, what I would say to him is, but dude, you're still landing at the Moscow airport. It's not like you're flying into the American embassy. So once you hit Russian airspace, once you're in Moscow, once you're at the Russian airport, they catch you with that marijuana. They don't give a damn if it's for medicinal or recreational purposes. Buddy, this is Russia. And look, and there's another, I think, context that's important. And I think many Americans just don't seem to, some do get it, but many Americans don't get it. You ask most people around the world, this is what they honestly think about most American tourists. That we think the world owes us. That the laws, the rules don't apply to us. You know, the ugly American. That we think, hey, if we want to go to Russia and we want to bring drugs, the hell with you. We don't respect your country. We don't respect your laws. We don't respect your sovereignty. And so what happens is many countries, when an American does break the law, they'll say, yeah, so you want to be the ugly American? You think the rules don't apply to you? Well, now we're going to really show you. No, you're not going to get 2 years in a gulag. You're going to get 14 years in a gulag. Blank you. Choke on that. So we do have a reputation. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but we do have a reputation. Not all, obviously, but some of us have a reputation. You know, ask, I don't care, take your country, ask Mexico. You know, ask China, ask Japan, ask Russia, ask countries all over the world. They go, no, Americans come and they think our laws don't apply to them. They think they can just do whatever they want. And that because they're Americans, we have to let them go. And it creates a lot of resentment. And that's why I always tell my friends when they travel abroad, be very careful. Don't bring drugs. Don't just follow the law as much as you can. Honestly, don't litter. Don't get into a fight. Just shut up, have a good time, enjoy yourself. That's it. Keep your head down, keep your head low. Because if you find trouble, you're going to get trouble. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Jason in New Mexico. Thanks for holding, Jason, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Jason.
Listen, a couple of different points. One, marijuana is still illegal at the federal level in the U.S., so that's no excuse. But that's a debate for another time. if you go into another country, of course you need to know their laws, you need to know their customs. You're a visitor there. You need to have, some respect for who they are. We expect the same thing when you come to this country. Everybody that listens to this show says, you've got to respect our laws, the border laws, all of that. We need to extend the same type of courtesy to other countries. If we want to, prop ourselves up as, the be all and end all. That's one point. And of course, I'm glad he's home. I wouldn't want to be in a Russian gulag. Of course not. Congratulations to President Trump on, winning an election and doing what he said he was going to do. That's what he was elected to do. So those are two of my points. My other 2 points of this is, to some of us, on the right, let's stop eating our own. Just because someone disagrees with you on one point, do not bash them and stuff like that. That's what that's
no,
not what
Jason, you're right. No, you're completely right. That's what the left does. That's exactly what liberals do. That's one of the things I hate about the left, and I hate about liberals. Okay, Larry Lemonster is entitled to his opinion. He fought for our country. I think he's earned it. But, when someone agrees with you 99.9% of the time, don't destroy the guy for the 0.1%. Okay, people are disagreeing on this issue. It's okay. We can agree to disagree. I'm so with you, Jason. Larry didn't call up and say, hey, I want him in that gulag and I want him to die. He didn't say anything outrageous like that. He just said, look, I'm sorry, man. You go to another country, you should know the laws. And with all due respect, I'm happy he's home, of course. I don't want him in a gulag. But do I think Trump should have expended that kind of capital to get him? No. I'm sorry, Jeff. I disagree. Okay, the man's entitled to his opinion. It's not the end of the world. I agree with you completely, Jason. And look, to go back to Larry's point about Saudi Arabia, the reason why in the Middle East, okay, it's a family show. It's 8:00 in the morning, my time. I know it's much earlier where you are, Jason. But the reason why you don't gesture with your left hand in so much of the Middle East, the right hand is for eating. The left hand, let me clean it up, is when you go to the bathroom. Okay, not that they don't wipe with toilet paper, but that's the hand that you use in the Middle East. That's the hand that they use for toilet paper, whatever, when you go to the bathroom. So it's the equivalent of saying someone comes here and let's say, if you use the left hand and is giving everyone the middle finger and saying F you, F you, F you, F you, F you. We would be like, buddy, that's really inappropriate. Get lost. That's how it's viewed and perceived, not just in Saudi Arabia, but through much of the Middle East. And so Larry's point is, look, man, and I'm left-handed, as Larry said. They told me when I was there for a month or 6 weeks or whatever, watch that left hand. Because that stuff doesn't play well down here. It's a different world. It's a different culture. This goes back thousands of years. They find it deeply, deeply offensive. And many of them find it even more offensive when Americans say, well, I didn't know that. They're like, well, you're coming to our country, dude, so you should know about it. Now, they may let you off once and say, okay, but now you know. Don't do it again. And look, Jason, this is the larger point. And you know how much I love America, okay? No one loves America or Americans more than the Kuhner man. But I've got to say this is true. It breaks my heart to say it. I can't tell you how many times when I've traveled abroad, it doesn't matter whether it's England, whether it's France, whether it's Austria, whether it's Mexico, whether it's the Bahamas, whether it's Bermuda, it doesn't matter. Take your pick. Everywhere you go, this is what people say about Americans. Americans think, because they come from the most powerful, wealthiest country in the world, that the greenback is king. They say this. They go, you Americans come, and they go, you guys think you can do whatever you want. You trash hotels, you go out partying, the rules don't apply to you, our rules mean nothing, our laws mean nothing. Like you guys think you own us. And it's called the ugly American. And they go, it really creates a lot of resentment. And I think that's something here that people just don't quite factor in. So, yeah, I mean, do I think a guy deserves 14 years for medicinal marijuana? It's crazy. But on the other hand, how many times do the Russians have to tell us, look, we're not asking you for your opinion. You do things your way in America. We do things our way in Russia. We have zero tolerance policy when it comes to drugs. Period. We don't care if it's cocaine, if it's heroin, if it's marijuana, hash, whatever. Don't do it. Don't bring it. Period. Capiche? Okay, or as they say in Russian, razumiesz. Do you understand? And I think after a while, there is something to this arrogant American because we just keep doing it. It's like, well, who are they? If I want to bring in my drugs, if I'm going to get my stash, then I'm going to bring my stash. Okay, well then don't cry when they put you in a gulag. Jason, am I wrong?
No, Jeff, you're 100% right. And one of the things maybe we can do as Americans is this. There's the left, there's the right. Why don't we start looking at each other like people? I grew up in Massachusetts with a lot of very, very liberal friends, and I'm still friends with them. We agree on absolutely nothing. But we go, you're still a good person just because I don't agree with you. It doesn't mean you're right. I'm not agreeing with you. I don't think you're right, but it doesn't make you a bad person just because we don't agree. Maybe as Americans, we should work on that a little bit. And maybe if we get better at that at home, we'll be a little bit better thought of abroad.
Amen. Very well said. Jason, very well said. Jason, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Look, let me just flip it just for, 10 seconds. How do we feel when foreigners come and don't respect our laws? Like, seriously, how does that make what is our automatic response? Hey, who do you think you are, man? Right? You're in our country. Obey our rules, our laws, our sovereignty, our values. What you guys do in your home country, that's your business. But now you're in our country. So let me just take something very mundane, okay? No, we're not talking drugs or anything like that. Okay? How about this? I'm from Britain. Well, I didn't know you guys drive on the right side of the road. In Britain, we drive on the left side of the road. Well, they're like, buddy, you're not in Britain. So at least show us the respect that if you're going to be coming to America and renting a car, you're going to follow our laws and our rules. Well, we think we do it better there. Well, then stay there. I don't know what else to tell you, man. I'm just giving this as an example. So this happens again and again and again. And by the way, increasingly foreigners keep saying, well, we don't care what you Americans think. We do it this way in whatever, Venezuela. Well, then stay in Venezuela. So you see, they're starting to show disrespect to us. And that's partly because we show disrespect to them. Now, no one asks us to agree with the Russian laws or with the Chinese laws or, hey, I don't think you should get your hand cut off because, you're a thief, as they do in parts of the Middle East. I think it's frankly barbaric, if you want to know the truth. But that's their business. That's Sharia law. That's their business. Do I think it's savage? Do I think it's primitive, personally? Yeah, I don't think you should lose your hand because you're a pickpocket or you stole a woman's purse or whatever. I don't like it. I think you should go to prison. I think there should be consequences. But I don't want you to lose your hand, for God's sake. But hey, that's how they've had it there for thousands of years. I'm sorry. Again, it's a form of imperialism for us to lecture and tell the world how they should govern themselves. We don't like it when they do it to us. We shouldn't do it to them. Yes, no, agree, disagree. Becky in Oregon. Thanks for holding, Becky, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call. I'll try to make this quick. The thing that Larry said that really grabbed me that I love is that, and also what you're saying, Jeff, is so obvious. It's such common sense. I mean, no offense, but people that don't know that shouldn't have to tell them. Okay, but what Larry said that I loved was that we have limited capital to spend. It's limited, so we have to. I'm glad the guy's home. Okay, so, Jeff, did you ever see the movie Midnight Express?
Yes, I've been thinking about that movie the whole show today. That movie so scared me, Becky, when I was young. Becky, why don't you tell everybody what the movie's about very quickly, the premise of the movie.
Okay, let me see if I still have it. I Googled it. It came out in 1978. That long ago. And I saw, and I was thinking it was like the Philippines or one of those.
No, it's Turkey. It's Turkey.
Turkey, right. And it said, because I thought, that was it says it was loosely based on a true story, Billy Hayes, and memoir. And I guess it said that he was attempted to, arrested in Turkey for attempting to smuggle out 2 kilos of hash. So I was thinking that maybe he didn't bring it in. I was thinking it was like some pot that maybe he didn't bring it in, that he bought it there or something. But I forgot about. I didn't realize.
No. If you see the movie, no, Becky. Look, it's been a while since I've seen the movie too. But no, he's smuggling hash, and he gets caught, and he's in Turkey. And so he thinks, well, this is going to be like America, it's going to be like a slap on the wrist or, whatever. And it's like, oh no. And it's not just a long prison sentence. He spends time in a Turkish prison. Oh, if you haven't seen the movie, it's a great movie. After I saw that movie, I was a young boy when I saw that movie. That made such an impression on me when I was young. I to this day, I've never forgotten the movie. And all I kept thinking is, don't ever bring drugs into another country, no matter what. And B, always follow the laws in another country. Because most of the world ain't like America. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. If you haven't seen the movie, see the movie. Oh, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just a very, very quick observation, and I want to go right back to the blazing phone lines. For example, Americans are the only people on earth that when they travel abroad as tourists, expect everyone to speak English. This is what other countries, foreigners, over and over again, they keep saying this is the one characteristic they notice about Americans. Go to France. I'm just picking France out of a hat. Americans will land in France as tourists and just on the street, just start talking to people in English. Like, I don't know. Do you know where the Champs-Élysées is? Hi, I'm sorry. Where's the Eiffel Tower? And then Americans will say, boy, we got a hostile, chilly reception. And I'll go to them and I'll say, well, let me ask you, if you're walking down Boylston Street or whatever street, and some tourist walks up to you in their native language, whatever, pick the language. They just start talking to you in, I don't know, in Spanish and Chinese and in Russian or just, and they're like, la 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 la. What would you say? Get lost. Right? I mean, can't you make an effort? You're in my country. I appreciate the tourism. I appreciate the interest. But, could you at least, I don't know, bring a phrase book? Try to ask a few questions? A few words in English? And then normally, right, like most normal people, Americans are very helpful. And they go, okay, foreigner, tourist, whatever, I get it. They want to go somewhere. Okay, yeah, I think, okay. And then, with hand gestures or whatever, and then you try to help the person out. So here, true story. A female friend of the show went to France. She said she got a hostile reception. I said, well, did you speak English the whole time? She said, yes. I go, well, obviously, that's your reason. She was going back again. She went to Paris. I said, do me a favor. Please just do me this favor. You can buy it secondhand. It's like $3 on the internet. Buy a French English phrase book. 50 words. Just 50 words. Learn about 10 words on the plane. You know, bonjour, which is hello or good day. And in French, yes, which is oui, no, which is no. And so learn about 10 words in French and just carry around the phrase book. Let them see the phrase book. And then walk to people and say in French, I'm sorry, I'm an American. And watch. How many of them can actually speak English? How many of them will try to speak English? How many of them will go out of their way to get you exactly where you want to go? She did exactly what I recommended that she's supposed to do. And so when she came back, she said, Jeff, oh my God, I never knew people in France were so friendly. I had the best vacation of my life. I said, now do that wherever else you go. I go, you'll be amazed. Suddenly people love Americans. Suddenly they want to help you. Suddenly now they're not cold and off-putting and insulting. Because guess what? Even if they know how to speak English, they find it offensive that you don't even try to speak their native language when you go there as a tourist. A few words, a few phrases, even an acknowledgement. Hi, I'm an American. I'm a tourist. I'm sorry. I don't speak your language. Do you speak English by any chance? And all of a sudden, everything becomes easier. But if you come in with the attitude, again, the ugly American, you come in with the attitude, hey man, we saved Europe not once, what, twice, 3 times. You guys would be speaking German or Russian if it wasn't for us. Talk to me in English. You have that, you bring that attitude, people are going to, people aren't going to like it. So I'm telling you, watch, observe. When you go abroad, watch. When you're traveling overseas, you're going to say, oh my God, it's true. Americans naturally walk up to strangers in another country and start talking in English. As if like they're all supposed to know our language. And we're the only people that do it. Anyway, agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Scott in Revere. Thanks for holding, Scott. And as always, welcome.
Yes, I love you. That's away, my friend. Winning.
Scott, buddy, I take it you're all in favor of what Trump did, my friend.
Oh, come on, Jeff. Are you kidding me? If you're not in favor of what Trump did, you're a liberal. That's all I'm going to say.
Scott, I'm just curious. Do you think now we've got a real shot at ending the war in Ukraine? He's talking to Putin. He's making deals with Putin. Prisoners are coming home. Apparently now they're saying the media in Russia is much friendlier to Trump than they ever were under Biden. Now there's a lot of optimism on both sides. Can Trump deliver?
Oh, Trump has already delivered. We both know the answer to those questions. Look at Joe Biden. They blew up their oil lines underneath the ocean, right? So that's what Biden did to Russia. Now, it's not Putin. What are you going to do with Joe Biden besides want to wring his neck? That's about it. Now you've got a real man with a real brain as president. Putin and Trump already have it all figured out. They're just going about it their way. So let them do it their way. I'm just so happy that this guy is home. Because you know what? I'd rather see... I'm telling you, what's not right is what Biden did to get the other hostages. That's what's not right.
I agree.
Trump didn't give...
Well, he didn't give the merchant of death. I mean, he didn't let a mass murderer out. I'm so with you, Scott. And look, to see Mark Fogle back home, eating American food, enjoying an American beer with the American flag, smiling ear to ear. God bless America. Just being honest with you, I'm just more images are coming across the screens. We got a lot of TV screens here in the iHeart studio, and so I've got Fox and CNN and all kinds of other channels on. Obviously, we're always monitoring stuff, and it's the biggest story in the world, and it's just great to see him. Images of him with President Trump with that beautiful American flag, the happiness, the joy on Mark Fogle's face. And that smile, and just, he kissed the ground. There's images of him literally kissing the ground as after he landed in America. And just his sister now is doing the rounds, and she's crying, doing the media rounds, thankful, very thankful to President Trump, and obviously Steve Witkoff and Marco Rubio, the whole team. A+ from beginning to end. Again, here is Ann Fogle. This is Mark Fogle's sister, on with CNN, and she said, my mother went to the Trump rally. She did it on a hunch. She said, if any man will do it, it's him. And it was the infamous rally at Butler, Pennsylvania. Poor Trump almost, died. He was assassinated, almost came with a millimeter of losing his life. But before he went on that stage, he met with the 95-year-old mother. She said, please, my boy is rotting in a gulag. I don't think he'll make it. His health is failing. Promise me, please promise me that if you become president, you will bring my boy home. And well, listen to Ann Fogle. Roll cut 4, Mike.
My mother went to the Trump rally and saw President Trump shortly before he was shot.
In Butler,
So
right?
it was,
In Butler, where she's from.
It was just a crazy turn of events. And he told her then that if he was elected, he was going to get him out. And the man was true to his word.
True to his word. To me, that's, if you want to talk Trump, of all of his qualities, that's the one that really stands out. We say promises made, promises kept, however you want to phrase it. He's a man of his word. When he says he's going to do something, he does it. It doesn't matter what it is. And so now the big issue, this is what I want to ask all of you. Trump has vowed to end the war in Ukraine. It was a central campaign promise. Okay, just like securing the border, he's doing it. Deporting illegals, he's doing it. Bringing down inflation, he's doing it. Restoring energy dominance, he's doing it. I could run down the DOGE, weeding out waste, fraud, and abuse. He's doing it. Imposing tariffs and ending these unfair, unjust trade deals. He's doing it. Everything he said he's going to do, he's doing. I want you to listen now. This is Trump with Mark Fogle at the Oval Office. And reporters are now asking the obvious question. You're talking with Putin behind closed, behind back channels, behind closed doors. You have a good relationship. You just freed Mark Fogle. Another one is going to come home today. Are you on the verge of a deal in Ukraine? Roll cut 3B, Mike.
So is this the beginning of a deal, sir? Is this the start of
I think there's goodwill in terms of the war. 1.5 million soldiers, young people have been killed.
I've met many of them.
Yeah, and it's a terrible thing going on, so we want to get that done. I think this could be the very important element. You could be a big part of it, actually, because it could be a big, important part of getting the war over with Ukraine. And we appreciate President Putin's what he did. He was able to pull it off for you, right? He was able to pull it off. We think, and you're here.
Yeah, Fogle said, I'm here, right? I'm here. Just a couple more cuts, very important cuts. Listen now to Trump. He's kind of now hinting there is a deal, or a deal in the mix. What he's saying is, wink, wink, I don't want to get ahead of my skis. I don't want to jump the gun, but we're talking and there's progress. Roll cut 3C, Mike.
I think we've made great progress on the war also. Getting the war, I want to get the war ended. That war should not have been. It would have never happened if I was president. It would not have happened. And it did happen. And now you have all blown up cities and dead people. So many dead people. should have never, ever happened.
Now, by the way, just all of you need to know this. Putin was asked, this was weeks ago, at a major press conference in Moscow. You know, Trump keeps saying that had he been, reelected, had he, by the way, Putin said the election was stolen. Okay. But anyway, they said if Trump was in power, he says you never would have invaded Ukraine. Is that true? Putin said yes. Putin openly said, he said no, because he never would have pushed NATO to my doorstep. There would have been no provocation. He never would have crossed the red line. So Putin is as confirmed saying, no, Trump is, I'm telling you, as the man who launched the war into Ukraine, that it was because of Joe Biden that we launched the war into Ukraine. Not because of Trump. If Trump was in office then, we never would have had the war in Ukraine. Now, one more cut, and I want to go to the phone lines. Listen now to Trump saying essentially now, we've got to end this war. And he's being asked specifically, are you going to give the money? Biden has now sent more money on his last days in office. Are you going to send all of this military aid that Biden has allocated? Are you going to give Ukraine all of this military aid and military assistance? Listen to Trump's response. Roll cut 3D, Mike.
Your predecessor left you almost $4 billion in unused aid for Ukraine, to Ukraine. Are you going to use those money? Are you going to
we're going to see, but my predecessor should have had this gentleman out a long time ago. We did it in 2.5 weeks. He had 4 years to do it. He should have had Mark out a lot earlier. It's a shame. It's a shame.
So basically he's saying, look, I want to see how the negotiations are going. He wants to use the military aid to Ukraine as leverage on Zelensky. Also leverage on Putin. In other words, he wants to go to Zelensky and say, obviously, hey, look, we got a deal. Everyone's going to have to put some water in their wine. Everybody's going to have to swallow some concessions. Now, if you're not willing to play ball, you're not going to get the money. What are you going to fight the Russians with then? You guys stole so much of it already. So whatever little military assistance you're going to have coming to you, you won't even have that. Or he can flip it around on Putin and say, hey, look, Vladimir, there's going to be billions of dollars more flowing to Ukraine. How many more Russians you want dead? So you want to continue fighting now for a couple more months? You think that's going to help you? So Trump is keeping all of his options open. But the key now is he says they're on the verge of a potential deal. What do you think? Can Trump do it? I'm just curious. And how far do you think Trump is willing to go to get this deal? What should he sacrifice on our end, if anything? 617-266-6868 is the number. Cindy on the South Shore. Thanks for holding, Cindy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I just wanted to say I agree with Larry in a lot of ways, but as a mother, I'm very happy that they let that man out of prison. However, my son is a traveler. He works for the airline industry, and he's been traveling the world for more than 10 years, and he travels by himself. And I always say, Tom, why don't you want to bring anyone? Why don't you want to bring a friend? He goes, Mom, you got to know the laws in other countries. I just don't want to get wrapped up in anything. He's traveling in March, and he was going to go to one of the stands, I'm not sure where. He's been everywhere. He's been to Turkey. He's been to Azerbaijan. I can't say it.
Azerbaijan.
Yeah, I can always say it until I'm on the radio. Right. And he just says, Mom, you can't drink during Ramadan. And he goes, I don't want to be caught with a beer. Or he said, so I'm going to go somewhere else. He just travels and he just follows the rules. He said, Americans tend to think when they're in other countries that they're Americans. They can get away with everything they want. He goes, that's not the way it is. And you just have to follow the rules. That's it. So I'm glad the guy is out. If it was my son that got arrested, I always worry about something happened to him. I'd be asking Trump to help get him out too. But on the other hand, the guy knows the rules and he probably should have followed them.
Cindy, let me ask you, because this is, I think, the question now that's been raised in this morning's show. Is Trump needlessly expending political diplomatic capital? Larry was saying yes. Many are saying no. What are you saying?
I don't think so. I think that this is a step closer to having better relationships. You know what I mean? I just think that he knows Trump's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. And he promised that mother he would bring home her son, and he did. And I just think that makes all of us say, this is what we voted for.
I agree. No, I completely agree. And to add to what you're saying, Cindy, think about it. It's like a conversation starter. It's greasing the wheels for Ukraine. You know, his first call wasn't so much about Ukraine. It was about, look, I want to get this prisoner home. So now he and Putin are talking. Well, Vladimir, since I have you on the phone, okay, Mark Fogle's coming home. Let's cut a deal on Ukraine. Come on, Vladimir. Let's make a deal. Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, listen to the new iHeartRadio app with preset buttons. You can set the app to play the Kuhner Report automatically. All right. Kuhner Country, let me ask all of you, because this is now where they're heading in terms of negotiations between Trump, Russia, and Ukraine to end that war. Zelensky, the leader of Ukraine, has now come out and said for Ukraine to sign any peace deal with Mother Russia, Ukraine is demanding at a minimum, bare minimum, that if Ukraine cannot be allowed to join NATO, which is a red line for the Russians, Vladimir Putin has said there must be a no on NATO for Ukraine, and Russia keeps the territory that it's annexed in eastern Ukraine. That for Putin and the Russians, those are two, as they put it, non-negotiables. Zelensky is now countering, saying, well, for us, a non-negotiable is that we must guarantee the security of Ukraine going forward. So if we're not allowed to go into NATO, then what we want is for full American security guarantees, permanent, complete American security guarantees. In other words, that Trump, if he wants this deal to happen, and if he's going to broker it, he would then have to pledge that the United States militarily defend Ukraine forever. It won't be NATO, it'll be us. Maybe he could get some other European countries to make a security guarantee to Ukraine. But fundamentally, Zelensky has said there will be no deal unless we get an American full security commitment signed into by treaty, a bilateral treaty between Ukraine and America, where if there's ever a war again on Ukrainian soil, should Russia ever attack us again or any other country, America will be fully committed to defend Ukraine. My question to you, deal or no deal? My position, absolutely not. So let me get this straight. According to Zelensky, and that, by the way, maybe had you not stolen all that money that we gave you, maybe things would be different on the battlefield, okay? But let that go, okay? Let that go. That's water under the bridge now, as they say. So let me get this straight. To end the war in your country, where hundreds of thousands of troops have been killed, millions of people, civilians dead or maimed, 10 million refugees, a fifth of your country occupied, much of your country's infrastructure I'm talking reduced to rubble, destroyed, shattered. And you're asking us to defend you for 1,000 years in order for you to agree to peace in your own country? By the way, in a war that Ukraine is slowly losing? No. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. If there's going to be any security guarantees or any peacekeeping troops on the ground, it should be the Europeans. If Germany wants to give them a commitment, if France or Italy or England or Poland, that's their business. And let them cough up the 100,000 or 200,000 troops that it's going to take to police this peace settlement, this negotiated peace between the Russians and Ukrainians in eastern Ukraine. But there should not be one American troop as a peacekeeper, and there should be not an American cent or an American dollar sent to Ukraine, and not one American bullet to commit to a Ukraine's defense. We brokered the peace because it's in Ukraine's interest to end the war and Russia's interest to end the war. If the Europeans want to add extra security guarantees, that's up to them. But we have enough commitments already. I am not willing to give an open blank check to Ukraine, an unlimited security guarantee for the next 1,000 years. Absolutely not. Ukraine is not the 51st state of the United States. So, if that's Zelensky's terms, they can continue to fight. Believe me, it's not going to get better for the Ukrainians. It's only going to get worse. So, my message to Trump, no deal. But that's me. What say you? Justin in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Justin, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. So quick on the Fogle thing. I think he should have rotted. You know, I got news for you. He's a teacher, cheat sheet, liberal, therefore feels that the law doesn't apply to them. And then Zelensky can go screw.
So, Justin, you would have left Fogle in the run. All right, short and to the point. Basically, leave him there, not worth the diplomatic political capital, and no to any security deal with Ukraine to broker a peace with Russia. Jim in Tingsboro, thanks for holding, Jim, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. How are you, Jim?
Oh, living. I'm the guy that's crippled. You remember talking to me a while back.
Yes. Yeah. What's on your mind, Jim?
I'll tell you, it's just, I agree with you 100%. I wouldn't have done it anyway. No way would I broker a deal like that. It's just this, it would be crazy. Also, as far as the American attitude overseas, well, I gotta put this out there. People have to grow up and use common sense. Okay? I know as well as anybody else, including yourself, you got to use your common sense if you have it. If you don't have it, learn how to use common sense. It's a simple thing. And as far as this kid being released from Russia, he's a teacher. He should have known better right from the start. So he made his own bed. He should have lied in it, I mean, that's the way I look at it. And, they just didn't use the common sense that, God-given common sense. And as far as the state of Massachusetts, they play a nasty little game on this marijuana stuff because they have a medical marijuana thing. It's called the Cannabis Control Commission. And then making money hand over fist, and whatever you'd save tax dollars to buy this stuff, you pay them $100, $200 a year. There goes your tax savings. So I'm like, hey, wake up, You know what I'm saying?
No, Jim, I know exactly what you're saying. Look, there's no question. When you travel abroad, don't bring drugs. And most of the world, I think Americans don't seem to quite, you do, Jim, obviously, but many Americans don't seem to quite grasp it. Most of the world is very traditional, very conservative. I don't just mean on social morality and stuff. They punish drug use hard. They don't let, you go to Asia, you go to Africa, you go to the Middle East, you go to Eastern Europe, you go to Russia. They're like, no, man, this is poison for our kids. We don't want this garbage. Don't bring it in. And just because we're more lax about drugs here, and frankly, the Western Europeans, okay, us, the Canadians, the Western Europeans, just because we're more lax about drugs don't assume that 90% of the planet is. And so, they don't like that stuff. They don't want that poison. They don't want that garbage in their cultures, in their societies, and in their countries. I'm just always amazed that people will do things in here, in a Muslim country. I don't know if you heard about this. There was a British couple, and they were on the beach. I forget if it was United Arab Emirates or Qatar or Kuwait. It was one of these Gulf sheikdoms, okay? Now, they have Sharia law. They're strict Muslim societies. Whatever you think about them, that's what they are. Well, what do you think this British couple does? They take their clothes off on the beach, forgive me, and they start having intercourse. And they're spotted on the beach, and, the Muslims there are absolutely outraged. And they go, what do you think this is, Britain? Like, you think this is some kind of a nudist beach here? And you guys can just copulate, just have sex in public? So, and they're like, what? I'm serious. What? Well, they threw their ass in jail. And it's a huge diplomatic row. You've got the U.S., the British embassies involved, the British government's involved, everybody's getting involved. And what these countries are saying, and I normally don't side with them, but on this, I'm with them. They're like, hey, you're in our country, man. Like, what makes you think it's okay to run around naked on the beach and have sex right there on the sand? Like, you guys want to do this garbage in Britain, fine, but not here. Like, you're in a conservative Muslim society. Use your head. And that's the problem. Too many of them don't. And then the government has to get involved. Everybody else has to get involved. Well, I'm sorry, man. Sometimes maybe the government I'm not saying in this case with Mark Fogle, but sometimes when you have two idiots like this, you know what? You want to copulate on the beach? You think it's funny to run around nude in a Muslim country? Okay. So sit in prison. Ask yourself if it was worth it or not. I mean, there's got to be a certain point where we have to respect the culture and the laws of other countries. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, joining us now, as she always does at this time, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. Grace Vuoto, my better half, my wonderful wife. Grace, it's the biggest story in the world. It seems to be getting almost bigger, actually, if it's possible. Trump has now released an American, Mark Fogle. He did a deal with Putin. Fogle was at the White House last night, slept in the Lincoln bedroom. Is this a big diplomatic coup for President Trump? Or should he have just left him there, knowing that he should never have brought in medicinal marijuana in 2021? Fogle is a teacher. He works in Russia. He teaches American diplomats as children in Russia. Should Trump have made this deal in the first place? What say you?
Well, Jeff, listen, I think that any time the president can rescue an American, even an American that behaved foolishly, it's a great, great moment. It's not just that he was imprisoned. It was a long prison term. It was draconian, what was sentenced. So I think the president definitely did the right thing. It's a big win for the United States, and it shows that he is the deal maker par excellence. And I think that's going to help him in other deals that he's going to make.
Ukraine. That's what everyone is now talking, that this is going to set up potentially a big deal on Ukraine to finally end the war. Trump has vowed he will end it. Zelensky's price is a permanent American security guarantee, a military guarantee for 1,000 years. He's willing to give up some territory, and he's willing to sit down with Putin, and he's even willing to say no to NATO membership. But in exchange, he says, if NATO won't protect us, America must guarantee our protection. Should Trump do the deal?
Absolutely not. This is actually even worse for us than if Ukraine would enter NATO, because there's even more than one country that would be responsible for Ukraine. So no, this is even worse than what Biden was suggesting. So the terms are no. Ukraine and every other country around the world has to start understanding that we are not going to be the world's policeman. We're out of that. Donald Trump campaigned on a refusal to participate in nation building. I want to hold him to that in every way, shape, and form. And he also campaigned that we would get out of all these foreign entanglements. That kind of a security guarantee is an entanglement on steroids, and we absolutely have to deny it.
Grace, one of the big problems in Ukraine, you know better than anybody, and Zelensky confessed to it maybe a week ago now, how much money has been stolen. We've sent them $177 billion so far that we know of. Zelensky has said only $75 billion made its way to Ukraine. $102 billion is gone. It's gone. It's been stolen. It's been stolen by Zelensky, by his people, by his cronies, by his generals, and of course by politicians in Washington who've gotten massive, massive kickbacks, starting with obviously the Biden crime family. This ties in exactly to what Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and DOGE are now uncovering. Hundreds and hundreds, according to Elon yesterday, hundreds of billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse, not just in Ukraine, in USAID, in Social Security payments, bogus payments to countless people with no Social Security numbers whatsoever, to illegal aliens, to people who claim disabilities and don't have any disability. They're finding people who've been dead for 150 years, still collecting government checks. Get government checks. Elon said this could be up to $1 trillion. $1 trillion of our taxpayer money stolen. And that's just what they found through DOGE. Are we now looking at the biggest scandal in American history?
Jeff, it's absolutely outrageous. It is the biggest scandal in American history. It's an even bigger outrage than what our revolutionary ancestors fought for. They fought over less than this. This is absolutely unacceptable. Not only should head rolls, not only should the government be dramatically reduced in size and scope for all time going forward, but definitely there should be criminal prosecutions. And if many taxpayers have scratched their heads wondering why have both Republicans and Democrats participated in globalism for decades, well, now we know the reason is because many of those participants were lining their pockets. We see what's just happened now with Ukraine. How much money was taken? That's another reason why we have every moral right to say, we've given you enough. You have not been a dutiful shepherd of what we've given you, and we do not owe you anything further. So, Jeff, I share your outrage, and I also congratulate you. I think that you have been foremost in the nation in continuing to shine a spotlight on this terrible scandal.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Grace. That means a lot to me. Because I know compliments from you are not easy to come by. So, so thank you. The New York Times says we're in a constitutional crisis. The media is saying this is a constitutional crisis. The Democrats are yelling constitutional crisis. You've got multiple rogue activist judges who are now blocking Trump, blocking Musk, blocking DOGE from having access to any of these Treasury Department data, payment systems, tracking all of this corruption, waste, fraud, and abuse. They say that no one elected Elon Musk, that this is an usurpation of power, that Trump is abusing his power, and that these judges now are right to rein him in, and the fact that Trump will not listen to these judges is the act of a dictator, and that Trump needs to be impeached. The left wants to take their stand on blocking DOGE at all costs. Are we in a constitutional crisis? Or are we now watching the judiciary essentially try to sabotage and blow up Trump's presidency?
Jeff, there is no constitutional crisis whatsoever. Trump was given a resounding mandate to do what he is doing. He's actually exercising the will of the people. And the Democrats are also making a giant political mistake. Nobody here is saying, oh my gosh, I'm so outraged at I'm so outraged that Donald Trump is investigating the government. No common person is saying that. No person on the street is upset about that. They're upset about what's been found. And the Democrats should be joining the chorus of outrage. So they're making a terrible mistake because, once again, they are a party that is adrift. Who do they represent? What cause do they represent? Are they not as upset as the rest of us are at all this corruption? No. They are arguing on some kind of an abstraction that nobody can relate to. So there is no constitutional crisis. Some issues can be battled in the courts. That's not a crisis. That's just a legal challenge. That's one point. Just calm down, everybody. Even if there is a dispute amongst, some legal, on legal issues, well, just take it through the courts. It doesn't rise to the level of a crisis. But even then, as a political matter, forget the legal matter, the political optics of this, I'm astonished. The Democratic Party leadership, they are behaving in a completely moronic manner. Their outrage should be at what we have discovered, not at Donald Trump or Elon Musk.
Grace, we've got 1 minute left. Let me ask you, almost like you and I are on the living room, on the couch talking, are you shocked at the extent of the fraud? How much of it? How deep it is? Now Elon has come out and said, look, we found billions of dollars, not tens of millions, billions that were sent to the media in this country, establishment media, and apparently there's also foreign sources of money that they've been taking. Are you shocked at how corrupt our system has become?
Yes, the extent of it is shocking. Now, we knew for decades that Congress was passing these monstrous bills with lots of pork barrel spending, bills that no one was reading. We knew that. But this level of corruption, this level of lack of efficiency, lack of accountability, this is just mind-boggling. And that there has not been a series of whistleblowers in all these agencies is also shocking. And it shows that too many Americans have been infected by the sin of greed. Not enough people all along the way stood up and said, wait a minute, this is wrong. Let me expose this sooner. Nobody did that until this point. That's also shocking, Jeff. And so not only do we have to reform the government, but this is a culture that we have to reform, with this obsession with collecting material items as a cardinal value, to the point that they're willing to participate in this dramatic a lack of virtue.
Oh, I agree. Well, it's greed. It's just pure greed. Greed. That's all it is. Greed. Grace, as always, dynamite stuff. We'll talk to you next week, same time, same place. Okay, it's all on the table. 617-266-6868. More with your calls next. Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Phil in West Boylston. Thanks for holding, Phil, and welcome.
You got me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Phil. Can you hear me?
Okay, we got to respect Trump's decision. If he chooses to free this person from Russia, it's up to Trump. We elected him to do a job. Our concerns are more, get these criminal politicians that are stealing all our money. Let's get their brain on fire, and let's get Elon Musk a deal to go to Ukraine and go through their books. We'll find out who these people are.
Phil, I'll be brutally honest with you. I'd be shocked if the Ukrainians let them come 1,000 miles within their books. That's how much. That's how much they've stolen from us, Phil. No, I think Elon's going to find it on our end. He's already finding it on. I mean, almost every 5 minutes, it's a new scandal that he's uncovering. It's really incredible. So the latest now is, I mean, I mentioned it with Grace, but let me just repeat it, Phil. The big scandal a week ago was that, forgive me, they found $50 million. Okay, $50 million. That taxpayer money went to the New York Times. $8 million to Politico, $9 million to the Associated Press, $9 million to Reuters news agency. Well, guess what now? Musk has said, look, DOGE, forget $50 million. We've now found billions of taxpayer dollars flowed into the New York Times and into the BBC and into the Associated Press and into NBC News, CBS News, ABC News, CNN. Phil, our money, your money, my money, we were paying for the checks of all of these far-left, anti-American, anti-Trump journalists to lie to us on a nightly, daily basis. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I don't know if you heard about this one, Phil. Now they've got, forget politicians now, government bureaucrats, federal government employees whose salary is supposed to be $200,000-$300,000 a year tops. Elon says we're doing audits. They're worth tens and tens of millions of dollars. And when we ask them, how the hell did you, from a $200,000 a year salary, how are you worth 20 mil? Their answer is good investments. And he's like, well, I want to talk to your investment broker because I've never had an investment broker like this who can turn $200,000 a year salary into $20 million. So it's not just the politicians that are stealing. Literally, the bureaucrats have been stealing. The government employees have been stealing. And again, this is just every 5-10 minutes, there's something new, another shoe keeps dropping. So look, we're almost at $1 trillion, $1 trillion. And now you know why they're trying to cut him off from the access to the information. Now, and by the way, Elon now is coming out and Trump are saying the judges. Now we're starting to find out kickbacks were going to judges. Maybe that explains why all these judges now are issuing temporary restraining order after temporary restraining order, preventing Trump and DOGE and Elon from conducting this government-wide audit and review. So, Phil, I hear you, brother. I'd love to crack open those books in Ukraine. There's no way the Ukrainians are going to let them. Because Zelensky's a crook. Everybody around him is a crook. And everything that we said on this show for the last couple of years has been completely 1,000% vindicated. Okay, you got it, Mike. So we're just having some technical issues, but we're gonna get it resolved. So look, this is what I've been trying to tell everybody. Yes, as I said on X last night, we are in a constitutional crisis. We are. There's no question. But it's not what the media and the Democrats are telling you. It's the exact opposite. The constitutional crisis is that the left now, in its desperate effort to protect the permanent bureaucracy, to protect what's called the administrative state, to protect the corrupt swamp, and this $1 trillion that we know of that they've been stealing, have now launched a coup against Trump. This is a judicial coup, where these rogue left-wing activist judges think now that they can control and dictate the executive branch. So they're going to tell the president of the United States that he cannot audit his own executive branch? That the Treasury Secretary cannot audit his own freaking department? That the Department of Government Efficiency that Trump created to audit the federal executive branch and who appointed Elon Musk. So now what? We can't audit our own politicians' spending? Is this what these judges are seriously trying to tell us? So, and as I said on X, let me repeat it. Hey, if you want to run and control the executive branch, go run for president. Win. But some hack, some Obama Clinton hack in a robe doesn't have the right to blow up Trump's presidency, sabotage Trump's presidency, and tell the president of the United States that he doesn't have effective control or oversight of his own executive branch. That's a judicial coup. They're trying to neuter and paralyze Trump and make it impossible for him to do his job. And with it, the presidency itself. No, absolutely not. Trump has to ignore every single one of these rulings and tell them, go pound sand. 7-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Sandy was just in here in the studio with me as we were off air. And Sandy, as you know, trained lawyer. He's got a legal mind. Very sober, very temperate. Never one given to, say, rhetorical excess or, rhetorical overload. And she walked in and said, Jeff, really, it's, you're right. It's a judicial coup. There was no other word to use. It's a coup without using the blood and the armor and the troops to overthrow Trump and overthrow his presidency. That's really what these judges now are trying to do. Cut him off at the knees so he can't audit all of this corruption. Now, I know the lines are full. I promise I'm going to get to calls. But you have to hear this. Please, you have to hear this. So this is Elon Musk yesterday. He's at the Oval Office with his adorable son, X. A beautiful little boy, by the way. He's holding the little boy. And Trump is right beside him. Listen now. Elon says, we just found this out. Listen to the latest bombshell. Roll cut 12. Mike.
Your team has found some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about $30 million,
right,
etc.
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened at USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it.
Of course. Yeah, they found, there's example after example, but they found one female, a federal bureaucrat, $200,000 a year. She's worth north of $30 million. They're so greedy. See, that's the thing. It's the greed, man. They're not just stealing. Look, I told you, there's an expression in Eastern Europe. Take, but not so much. In other words, okay, politicians are going to steal, but for God's sake, leave something for the schools, the hospitals, the roads, the police. Don't be so greedy. So Elon is saying, forget the politicians now. We're digging into a deeper level. The bureaucrats, they're robbing us blind. Now, it continues. Listen to this. This is unbelievable. Blank checks. The checks were flying out the door. There's no categorization code. So you don't know what's the money going for. Well, what is this for? Nothing. We don't know. No comment field. In other words, what is this for? Health? What is this? A healthcare expense? What is it? For what section of the department? What section of the bureaucracy? What's the purpose of these checks? Some of them were just blank checks. In other words, here's the cash. Put whoever's name you want on it. Roll cut 12A. Mike.
So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got a truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. and this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation, can take up to a year to get on the list, and even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing.
So, terrorist organizations, you can't send them the money. That's the do not pay list. And it takes up to a year to get the organization on the freaking list. And then even then, they're still sending them checks. That's what he goes. Elon is saying, you don't understand. They're not passing a basic audit. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell all of you? Any other private company, they'd go bankrupt. They'd be finished. People would be hauled off. They'd go to jail. There's so much freaking fraud that they're sending out blank checks. Do you understand? Do you understand how bad? And we're talking about maybe $1 trillion easy. $1 trillion. Not 100 billion, 200 billion, 500 billion. $1 trillion effing dollars of our money. But hold on. Sorry, either you laugh or you cry. I don't know what else to tell you. Listen to Elon saying, this is just common sense. We're going to go bankrupt. Do you understand? Like, you can't function like, we're like a third world banana republic. Roll cut 12B. Mike.
So what we're talking about here, we're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present. So you say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared towards complaint minimization, so then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why everything they approve all the payments at Treasury. Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints.
Did you catch that? I swear, it's like a Hollywood movie now. It's like a Hollywood spoof of how the government works, except it's real. Elon says, my auditors have found out, DOGE, that you asked people in Treasury, but you kept approving all these checks. Why? Well, we don't want people to complain. And they're like, who cares if people complain? The question is, are the checks accurate? And are they going to people who deserve to get the check? You're sending checks to people with no social security numbers. You're sending checks to people on a do not list. You're sending checks to people who have been dead for decades. But we don't want anybody to complain, you see? So the whole goal is not to have people complain. Well, yeah, if you're scamming the system, why the hell would you complain? He goes, it's a loony bin up here. Now, there's more. Listen, so this is what Elon says. Here is now what we've concluded. We don't live in a democracy. He really means constitutional republic, okay? Representative government. But he's going democracy shorthand. We don't live in a democracy. Let me tell you what we really live in. Roll cut 16, Mike.
If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy, we live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the President, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large, unelected bureaucracy.
Bingo. You see, that's the shadow government. That's the swamp. That's the ruling class. That's the establishment. Use whatever term you want to use. But it's a kleptocracy. If you really want to get a regime based on theft, okay? It's a massive federal bureaucracy, an unelected, unaccountable shadow bureaucracy. And now through these rogue judges, what they're saying is, no, you, the American people, don't count. You may have voted for Trump. Who cares? You may have voted for DOGE. Who cares? You may have voted to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, as Trump campaigned on again and again. It doesn't matter. The bureaucracy trumps all. The system trumps all. Listen now to Musk saying, I'm the threat to democracy? Trump is the threat to democracy? No. Roll cut 17, Mike.
Yeah, at a high level, you say, what is the goal of DOGE, and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy.
That's what this is. In other words, who does ultimately, these bureaucrats, all of this money, this entire system, who is our government? Is it accountable to who? Is it accountable to these bureaucrats, these fat cat bureaucrats, these thieves? Or is it accountable to the American people through their elected representatives? President Trump, the House, and the Senate. That's the key battle now that we're facing. That's going to determine the fate of Trump, his administration, and ultimately the country. So, let me ask all of you. Elon now says they're robbing us blind. What should Trump do next? Ism's worst nightmare, baby. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from Mark on Messenger. Jeff. I mean, sorry, either you laugh or you cry. You know, I mean, I'd rather laugh. I mean, if you're going to be stealing my money, I might as well just laugh. Jeff, did you also hear Elon said from the White House yesterday that he found people 150 years old are collecting Social Security? No, I know. They've discovered the fountain of youth over there. Call the Vatican. It's a miracle. There's immortality after all on Earth. People are living forever now. It's incredible. Once they get on Social Security, they never die. 617-266-6868. Mike in Saugus. Thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome. Mike? It looks like Mike is like moving something. Harry in Maine. Thanks for holding, Harry, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning.
Hi.
You know, Mark's right. And you hear all these Democrats spewing this nonsense that people are going to lose their Social Security. They're right. The ones that are going to lose it are the ones that are collecting it illicitly, like these people that are already dead or 150 years old. So anyway, that's not why I called. I've listened all morning. A couple of quick comments. First of all, on the prisoner, on the exchange of the prisoner, I'm not sure political capital was overspent because I'm not sure what the Russians are getting in return. So it's a little premature. But I will say this, if my memory serves me, I don't believe that Brittany Griner held the United States in high esteem at all. And the chemicals substances that she brought over were not for medicinal purposes. So I'll just make that comment. As far as Zelensky wanting to cut a deal with Putin, and I agree with you, absolutely 100% against the United States guaranteeing Ukraine that we'll defend them. What I would propose is that, give him what he wants, have Russia agree never to attack or breach their sovereignty, whatever that's going to look like once they settle on the geographical lines. But I would also just emphatically state to Putin that Ukraine will never be part of NATO, and that NATO will never put a military presence in Ukraine, and that should satisfy both sides. The only issue to be negotiated would be where would the settlement of the geographical lines of the countries be after all is said and done. And this final point about Musk and what he's been able to uncover, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of blank checks being issued, but to my knowledge, anytime a check is cashed, they can trace where it was deposited and who deposited it, what account it went into, or who cashed the check. So there is a way to go back and trace that money, follow the money, kind of like Comer's done with Hunter Biden and following the money. I think in this case it'd be a heck of a lot easier, but I might be wrong. But anyway, those are my comments, Jeff.
Harry, before I let you go, excellent across the board, by the way, across the board, superb points. Harry, I think, and this is what Elon's basically saying. Now we're starting to find out why all these politicians are losing their minds, and all these judges and all these bureaucrats and all these people in the media, because maybe those checks ended up in their bank accounts. What say you, Harry?
No doubt. Absolutely no doubt. They're all running scared. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. And that's why you're getting all these judicial, deliberations coming down against Trump right now, trying to slow him up. And it's a coup. I think you're absolutely right on that. Sandy's right as well. So, I mean, follow the money and keep them hopping. That's what they did to the Republicans when they were in office. It was one thing after another, one executive order after another. And I think Trump's got their head spinning, and while they're looking over here, he's already talking about going and looking at the Department of Education to see what they'll find there. And Lord knows what we'll find. But there's no doubt in my mind, Jeff, that these pockets have been greased. And what Mush said is spot on. It nails it, 100%. What he said yesterday about people getting rich by just making a couple $100,000 a year and all of a sudden growing their net worth, tens of millions of dollars. And Samantha Power is his name, by the way, is the number one person attached to that claim. But
There's no oil. She made out like a bandit. Oh, it's disgusting. No, Harry, look, let me ask you this, and it's not a trick question. Are you frightened of these audits, Harry? Are you upset about these audits, Harry? Is your hair on fire over these audits? I'm just curious. Are you livid about these audits, Harry?
I sleep well at night, Jeff. I have no concerns whatsoever. Bring it on.
Same thing with me, exactly. You nailed it. Harry, thank you for that call. I'm not nervous. Harry's not nervous. I bet all of you listening said, Jeff, I'm not nervous. Why? Because we didn't get the checks. Oh, now you know why they're all screaming bloody murder up in Washington. Mike in Saugus. Do we have Mike back? Mike?
Jeff, I agree with you 110%. I never realized how bad it really is. People have to go to jail. Republicans have to come out like they never, ever came out and fight, because it just can't be Donald Trump and Elon Musk and another dozen of Republicans. They all have to come out. And the nerve of these rotten Democrats to be coming out and screaming and yelling, the Maxine Waters and the Elizabeth Warrens and the Presleys, these people are criminals.
Mike, what a way to end the show. Drop the mic. Look, it's obvious, okay? If you're worried, if you're a politician and you're worried about a government audit, you shouldn't be in politics, because that means you're a crook. And that's why they're all screaming, yelling, crying, and stomping. To Trump and to Elon, go, baby, go. Don't stop. Bye-bye.